Okay, so this video covers things that I think are important for getting set up in RStudio. So I want to just talk about setting up a few things, a couple of shortcuts. So when you start working on your homework, I strongly recommend creating a separate folder for each homework assignment. So, when you open the assignment on, say, Brew and Learn, it's going to end up, the file that you download, the files you download will end up, say, in your downloads folder. Okay, don't just open them up from your downloads folder, but create a folder, either in your documents or even on your desktop or something, but create a folder called Homework 1 and put your documents in there. So say for this first homework and assignment, there's these different files that you need to download. The instructions PDF, the month names.txt file, and this RMD file. You're going to download those files, put them inside your homework. Now, when you create your homework names, I strongly encourage not to put spaces. If you want to have a space between words, use underscores or dashes or something like that, and you're going to put your files into there. Okay, and then you'll navigate to that file and open up the RMD file to work there. And then for this first homework assignment, you're going to have to kind of create a little script file, a .r, and you're going to put that into your same homework folder. Okay, so create separate homework folders, homework 1, homework 2, etc. And that's going to just kind of keep things a little bit more organized and keep things running smoothly. And then when you're in R, okay, what you want to do is, let's say you have downloaded some of these folders somewhere. So let's say I'm going to create a folder called Homework 1 on my desktop, and we'll download some of these files here. So I'm going to go ahead and click download. So this is ending up over here, and so let's see. Open up my downloads folder. So we're going to move that into my Homework 1 folder. Okay. And then we'll do the same with, say, the month names.txt, and then the instructions folder. I'm going to go ahead and download that as well. And so here they end up over here. So instructions and month names. I'm going to cut those, move those into the folder over here. Okay. So here they are, and then you're going to say open up your RMD file. And this will open up here. You'll change your name. So we'll say Joe Bruin or whatever. Okay, we'll save that. And then what you want to do is under Session, you'll go to Set Working Directory, and you'll do To Source File Location. And what you'll see is in the console, what you should see is Set Working Directory, and this should be kind of the folder. So here I created on my desktop Homework 1. And yours might say like documents stats 102a / homework 1 or whatever it might be, whatever folder, but that should appear there. So you want to do that. Okay, so you want to go to again, the navigation is in the menu. Go to Session, Set Working Directory, To Source File Location. Okay, if you don't do that, okay, if you try to do something like try to open a file, so inside this thing, it will say something like, so one of the commands here is read.delim monthnames.txt. And so because I have my working directory set here, and I have monthnames.txt set here, when I run this, I'm able to run that line, and month names is now inside my directory, and I can see it right here. Okay, so the files are loaded up there. Okay, now if for whatever reason, if I don't have the the folder in this file in there. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of remove it, put it back in, say, my downloads folder. All right. If I try to let me clear this out. If I try to run this without monthnames.txt in there, I'm going to get this error. It says cannot open file. Okay, no such file or directory. Cannot open the connection. That means in the directory that it's working, which is this folder here, it doesn't see the file. And indeed, that file is not there. It's in the wrong folder. Okay, so this, you're going to see some kind of thing if you don't have your file in the right folder, or you have, or maybe the file is in the folder, but you don't have your working directory set. So if my working directory is, say, set to the wrong folder, set to desktop, okay, if my working directory is set to the wrong folder and I try to open up monthnames.txt, okay, maybe I have it somewhere, but it's going to encounter some kind of error message if it doesn't see the file in the correct working directory folder. Okay, so if you see some kind of error like this, error in the file, can't open the connection, that means R is searching for that file and it doesn't see it. Okay, so you need to fix that. Another big thing is in RStudio, you have this environments pane. Okay. In the environments pane, this kind of contains all of the different objects in there. And periodically, it's good to just clear all of the objects in your environment so you have an empty environment. Because as you kind of work through different examples and work through different stuff, this is going to get kind of cluttered. You create a little vector, you load up, say, month names or whatever it might be, whatever these different files and folders are and stuff like that. They start filling up the environment, and you can type out commands, but one of the easiest ways is to just hit the broom, and that's going to just kind of sweep away and clear everything out of your environment. That's going to be the quickest way to kind of clear the environment. Okay, and clearing the environment is also a good way to debug when you're trying to knit. Okay, but if you want to type, if you're already in the console and you want to type things out, that you can also type in rm list equals ls parentheses, and that will clear out the environment. So kind of one of the most common issues is my code runs in R, but when I try to knit, I get an error. Okay, this is one of the most common things. This is what I see posted very frequently on Campus Wire and things like this. What often happens to produce this problem is that let's say I'm working on some kind of RMarkdown document, okay? And let's say here, I'm going to just create a thing. I'm going to do like x1 through 3 or something. I'm going to just go ahead and delete. So inside my RMarkdown document, we'll say like problem 1, okay? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click knit, and we will save this to our desktop under homework 1. This will just be, we'll call this homework 1 example. All right, so it's knitting, and I think it knits successfully. Okay, so here we just created x's 1 through 3, and so I have this. I have x's 1, 2, 3, and then let's say I do like x plus 4 or something, and that runs. Okay, and then let's say I decide later to kind of change things up. I make some changes to this thing, and I say, you know what, I don't want x plus 4, I want x plus 10, and I click run, and sure, that looks like it's working. Okay, got x in my environment, and then I'm going to try saving this. Okay, and I try to click knit, and then I get this error message. right? It's not letting me knit. It says object X not found, okay? But here I am, I'm in my RMarkdown document, and I try to run this, and it's running, right? I can change it X plus 11, it runs, X plus 10, however, runs. But when I try to knit, okay, it's saying object X not found, okay? And the reason why it's running here but not knitting is because in my environment I do have an X object, but when I try to knit this, there's no X object created. And so when R knits, okay, it always, the whole purpose of RMarkdown is for reproducibility, meaning I could give you this RMarkdown file and you could run it on your computer and you will get the same results that I get, okay? And the way R does this is it always starts off with an empty environment. So if I clear this out and then try to run this code chunk, then I encounter this error message, object X not found, because we see in this document, I never created X. So in order to remedy this, I have to add the line of code where we create X in the first place. I create X as 1 through 3 or something, okay? And so now I can run this, and this executes, and I get 11, 12, 13. And to just kind of make sure that it runs fine, I start off with an empty environment. I can play this again, and it runs. And so now if I knit this, now it will knit. And now I can open up the thing, and indeed I get X as 1 through 3. So this is the most kind of thing is that, yeah, a student creates an object in R, and then you kind of modify or delete the line of code that creates that object, but because that object still exists in the environment, right? Again, so if I get rid of this line that creates X, I can run this code that uses X, okay? But I won't be able to knit because I never created X in this thing. So if I got rid of that thing, it's going to say X not found, right? And so when it comes time to knit, the line to create that object doesn't exist, or creates a different version of the object, and R is enabled to execute that line. So just kind of to debug these things, this is how I recommend is to solve it is clear out your environment, save your thing, and then just run line by line through your thing. Eventually, you'll probably encounter some kind of error message, see what line causes the error message, and that will help you, learn where the error is being created. Okay, so if you're able to if, however, you are able to clear the environment and then run through every single line of code here, then your thing should be able to knit without any kind of issues. Okay, sometimes you try this and it still doesn't work, and so resolving really stubborn issues, okay, this is a lot more work, and so I recommend it only if it's absolutely necessary and you couldn't figure it out before. But another kind of way to make sure things will work, okay, is you create a new blank RMarkdown document, okay, and it always starts off with some basic stuff, and then you try knitting it. So I'm going to we'll do this homework 1 new here, and then you try knitting that, and it knits, and this is always the default thing that gets populated for that. And then what you'll do is you'll go and you'll delete everything out, okay, and then you'll start and what you'll do is you'll take the document that isn't working, and what you'll do is you'll copy one chunk at a time. Okay, so I say clear environment, create a new RMD, and then knit that fresh RMD file. And because it's brand new, it should knit with no problems. Then you delete anything from it, and what you do is you just copy one paragraph at a time, or one code chunk at a time, from the problem RMD to the fresh RMD. Okay, after each paragraph you copy over, or each code chunk you copy over, then knit knit the new RMD file each time, right? So this will be like heading 1, and then paragraph 1, right? So you start off fresh, you knit it, and this knits just fine, okay? You open it up and you go, yep, that looks good. And you just kind of keep going back and forth, copying new things over, right? Paragraph 2. And you might find, okay, now we, here's a code chunk 1, okay? Code chunk 1. And then you try knitting this, and then you encounter an error message, all right? And so now we know the problem arose either in paragraph 2 or code chunk 1, because these are the things, you know, after I put in code chunk 1, I'm not able to knit, but if I delete it, I am able to knit, okay? So now I know the problem was in code chunk 1, okay? And that the problem is because this is not valid code, right? But, oh, I comment this out. Now it knits just fine, okay? So you kind of copy something new, and after you copy each code chunk, after you do this, try knitting again, and then eventually you'll probably copy something over and then it no longer knits, okay? And when that happens, you know the problem resides in that chunk that you just copied over. And you can kind of verify your suspicions by just deleting that chunk and then knitting it. And if it does knit, then you know for sure 100% the problem is in that one code chunk or that one chunk of text or chunk of code that you copied over. And then you can kind of look in really closely to try to figure out where the problem is. And that way you can kind of resolve the issue. So that would be the strategy for resolving kind of really stubborn issues when you're trying to knit. Okay, another important thing is set your language to English, okay? And I recognize this is very kind of, I guess, Anglo-centric by saying this, but, you know, I require that you knit your homework into a PDF with LaTeX and things like that. And a lot of kind of foreign characters are not set up to work with LaTeX. And so in R, if you have your language set to a different language, the error messages will not appear in English, but might appear in a foreign language. Okay, and so when you knit your homework, and if your homework, and in R, you can set your options to still knit the file even when error messages appear. However, if that error message contains foreign characters, it's going to cause problems during the LaTeX rendering. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to set your R language to be English so that the error messages are always in English, and then it can kind of knit. And so here's a couple links for how to set your language to English, or you could just go onto Google and search how do I set my R language to English, and there's going to be different kinds of things. But oftentimes if you see something like this, Unicode character is not set up for use with LaTeX, that might be because your English language is not set to English. Okay. Another time you might see this kind of message is if you ever copy and paste something from a PDF file. Okay, so sometimes when you documents create PDF files, they put in funny characters, right? Like the dash becomes a longer dash, or the quote marks, you get fancy quote marks or things like that, and those things might not be compatible with LaTeX or R as well. And so sometimes you might get something about Unicode character, something like that, and a lot of times you can kind of you'll see this little U code, and you can search for that on the internet, and you can find that particular character, the offending character somewhere in your document, okay, and delete it and just replace it with something else. Another thing is don't under your R global options, okay, oh, I have this set the wrong way. Uncheck this, okay? Restore our data into workspace at startup. Uncheck that, okay? And then save workspace to our data on exit. I always choose never, okay? So uncheck this thing, restore our data, and save workspace to never. And then I'll click OK. And that will just kind of help avoid issues with a bunch of stuff being in your environment. Okay, because if you have stuff in your environment, sometimes it loads up options from packages and things like that, and that could throw off even just like the way like the sample function works in R. Just different kind of things can be affected. So set these settings here. Okay. I wrote, not saving on exit forces you to have good habits. It also prevents issues where your script receives old and incorrect values when it refers to common names such as X or results or something. If you don't save your workspace on exit, then those values won't exist when you try to start RStudio at the same time. Okay. And if you want to save your workspace, you still can. You just have to do it explicitly. You just click the little save icon for save workspace. Okay, a couple shortcuts. As you're working, you can toggle comments in your code. So, so this thing, you can hit Control-Shift-C or Command-Shift-C, and that will toggle that line of code with a comment or not. I mean, it's not very hard to hit pound, but you can do it with like multiple lines, right? Line 2, line 3, line 4, and you can highlight them all, and you can toggle all of them on or off at the same time. Okay, with Command-Shift-C. So that's a handy little function. Okay, you can create new R scripts right here. New R script, Control-Shift-N, or see whatever thing you have there, and then you can always kind of hit Command-Enter with each line to you can highlight a block of text and it'll run that thing. Or if you have the entire script, you can hit Command or Control-Shift-S, and it will run the entire script there. Other useful things, Command or Control-L, or you can hit this broom to clear out the console. And to knit is Command or Control-Shift-K when you're working on some kind of RMarkdown file. Okay, and then restarting that. So those are handy little shortcuts. I think the setup and helping you kind of troubleshoot the knitting and whatnot, that's going to be the most important part.